On May 3, 2014, the police received a call from a hotel cleaner. She reported finding a large piece of skin in a drain. The police rushed to the scene. They confirmed it was human. The cleaner explained what happened. She entered the bathroom and saw the floor flooded. She thought the drain was clogged. So she started cleaning. First, she pulled out a yellow, egg-sized object. It felt like fat, maybe animal fat. It seemed strange. Why would a hotel have something like this, she thought. Then she pulled out a piece of meat. But the real shock came next. She pulled out a large piece of human skin. Realizing what it was, she dropped her tools, ran out of the room, and called the police. The police found remains in the drain. They suspected the killer may have disposed of more remains elsewhere. They began a thorough search of the hotel, checking all the drains and trash bins. They found several bags containing remains, in black and yellow plastic bags. Forensics confirmed this was just part of the body. The rest had been disposed of in another location. They still needed to figure out what parts were missing. The remains appeared to belong to a young woman. But since the body was dismembered, the cause of death was still unclear. The police checked the room's guest records. They found that 28-year-old young Muqing had checked in on April 30th. She quickly became their prime suspect. They contacted her family. They learned her husband had died in a car accident a year ago. She had no children and lived alone. Her parents hadn't heard from her in some time. DNA tests confirmed the body was hers. This made the case even more puzzling. Who would kill a young woman living alone? After confirming the victim's identity, the police began looking for the killer. Young Muqing, 28, had checked into the room 3 days earlier. She became the main suspect. The case was complicated, and the motive remained unclear. The investigation was growing more difficult. Young Muqing lived a simple life. She worked as an accountant, with a stable job and income. Her social circle was small, and she got along well with her colleagues. Her husband had died in a car accident a year ago, and she had been single ever since. She had no known enemies, and no apparent emotional issues. With few clues, the police focused on the crime scene. Unfortunately, the room had been cleaned, so any potential evidence might have been removed. But they searched thoroughly anyway. Luckily, the hotel had cameras. The police checked the footage. At 9:12 p.m. on April 30th, young Muqing checked in. She went straight to her room. A few minutes later, she came back to the front desk. She spoke to the clerk briefly and took a small bag back to her room. The police asked the clerk what happened. The clerk said she was asking for extra toiletries, but her room already had a set. He also said she had booked a queen-sized room, which is usually for 2 people. So, the police thought she might have someone with her. Around half an hour later, a man in a purple shirt entered the hotel. He didn't stop at the front desk. He went straight to the 3rd floor and entered her room. After that, young Muqing never came out. The man checked up for her. The autopsy showed young Muqing died between the night of April 30th and the early morning of May 1st. Surveillance footage clearly showed a man entering her room on April 30th. Over the next few days, he was seen going in and out of the hotel multiple times. What stood out was that every time he left, he was carrying a bag. But when he came back, the bag was gone. The police suspected the bags might contain parts of the victim's body. To check, they spoke to the front desk clerk who worked that night. The clerk said he didn't notice anything unusual, since the hotel was busy at the time. When the man checked out on May 3rd, he did it for young Muqing. The clerk remembered a woman checked in, but because it was so busy, he didn't ask any questions. He just returned the deposit and had the cleaning staff prepare the room. The footage showed the man leaving with a beige handbag. When compared, it was the same bag young Muqing had when she checked in. Then, the man was seen carrying a long object wrapped in red plastic. This immediately caught the police's attention. The police checked footage from earlier days and saw that the man always entered the hotel empty-handed. This long object clearly wasn't something he brought with him, so it likely came from inside the hotel. So, what was it? The coroner confirmed the body parts were incomplete. The skull and thigh were missing. He explained that these bones are the hardest to break down. Without proper tools, it's difficult to fully dismember them. The killer likely took them elsewhere. When the man checked out, He had a long object with him. Could it be the missing thigh? The police reviewed the footage. The object was about the length of a thigh, but the man carried it easily with one hand. Young Muqing was slim, but her thigh wouldn't be that small. The police remembered the fat and meat found in the drain. Those pieces were large and intact, but the pieces in the drain were chopped into tiny bits. The killer might have cut them up and flushed them down. He probably took the harder-to-handle bones. The killer was cold and careful. The police knew they had to act fast. Surveillance footage from the street tracked the suspect's movements. After leaving the hotel, he walked toward a nearby market, carrying a bag and a long object. A few minutes later, he came out of the market, but the long object was gone. The police believed the market was a good place to dispose of evidence. They worried that scavengers might find the items. If someone took the bones, the investigation would become harder. So, they acted fast. They sent officers to search the market. After 2 hours, they found a red plastic bag near a butcher's shop. Inside was a long object. They opened the bag. It was Young Muqing's leg bone, cleaned and cut very precisely. The police suspected the man might be a butcher or meat vendor. He knew how to handle bones, and he seemed familiar with the area. He went straight to the market. But there was a problem. The market had limited surveillance coverage. They interviewed vendors and pedestrians, but found no leads. Then, the police turned to motorbike drivers. One driver remembered a man in a purple shirt, carrying a bag. The man asked to be taken to Xingfeng village. Halfway there, he told the driver to stop near a garbage dump. He threw out some money, then quickly left. The police believed he might have dumped more remains at the dump. They thought the bag contained her head and other parts. They searched the dump, but didn't find anything. Still, the leg bone confirmed the man was their suspect. The police learned he was heading to Xingfeng village. They thought he might be hiding in a local hotel or internet cafe. The suspect is Zhang Jian, a 35-year-old man with a robbery record. After his release, he worked as a butcher. He also sold meat at the local market. He was skilled at handling bones and knew the market well, which helped him cover his tracks. But why did Zhang Jian kill Young Muqing? What was his connection to her? As the investigation unfolded, a shocking detail emerged. A year ago, Zhang Jian was involved in a hit-and-run. He killed Young Muqing's husband, Wang Dafan. Zhang Jian confessed, paid compensation to the family, and Young Muqing forgave him. This allowed him to avoid prison, and he received probation. But now, Zhang Jian had killed Young Muqing. Why? The investigation revealed another twist. Young Muqing had a secret affair. Her lover was her boss, He Chang. They planned to use the affair for career advancement. Young Muqing was supposed to check into a hotel with He Chang, and police suspected her husband's accident was related to this affair. Before Young Muqing could check in, Zhang Jian knocked on her door and killed her. It wasn't just a random act. Zhang Jian was the driver in the car accident that killed her husband. Everything started to make sense. The truth came out. Young Muqing and He Chang had plotted to kill her husband. Wang Dafan had discovered their affair and threatened to expose them. To cover up the scandal, He Chang and Young Muqing staged the car accident. They paid Zhang Jian 300,000 yuan to make the accident look like an unfortunate event. Zhang Jian was forgiven by Young Muqing and received probation. The plot worked, and Wang Dafan was gone. But Young Muqing's death exposed everything. After her husband's death, Young Muqing began to question He Chang. He had never kept his promise to marry her. Young Muqing soon realized she'd been deceived, and her patience was running out. She decided to take action, threatening He Chang that if he didn't keep his word, she would expose everything and ruin him. But what she didn't see coming was how badly that backfired. She had no idea that Wang Dafa had been eliminated for making the exact same threat, and now she was about to face the same fate. When He Chang heard her threat, he didn't hesitate to do what he had to. He reached out to Zhang Jian, offered him 300,000, and asked him to take care of the problem. Zhang Jian set a trap, pretending to invite her to a hotel. She showed up, thinking she'd meet He Chang, but instead, it was Zhang Jian waiting. The moment she opened the door, it was over. Zhang Jian followed through with the plan, using his skills to get rid of her body. He flushed some of her remains down the drain, took her head, and scattered her body in pieces. It was this handling of the body that eventually exposed the case. If not for that, it might have stayed hidden forever. In the end, both Yichang and Zhang Jin were sentenced to life in prison for their cold-blooded actions, and Yang Muqing paid the ultimate price for her choices. Had she stayed loyal, none of this would have happened.